Welcome to What the Health, an independent approach to your health span. Have you noticed how our healthcare system may not have your best interest in mind? Join Dr. Eckel in this fun and sometimes disturbing exploration of the state of healthcare and what it means for you. Now, here's your host, Dr. Eckel.
Dr. Greg Eckel and my guest, Dr. Tom Morecroft. And today, sometimes disturbing, sometimes fun, today is a fun topic on What the Health. We are talking the meditation prescription, the healing effects of meditation on brain health and longevity. And I want to give a proper introduction to Dr. Tom. So he is a good friend of mine. He treats some of the sickest, most sensitive patients suffering from chronic Lyme disease, tick-borne co-infections, mold illness, as well as children with infection-induced autoimmune encephalitis. That just rolls right off the tongue. PANS and PANDAS are the acronyms for that. Focuses on optimizing the body's self-healing systems in order to achieve optimal health with simple, natural interventions, utilizing more conventional approaches when needed. He's a great osteopathic physician, and he treats each individual as a unique unity of body, mind, and spirit, which I so resonate with. And we have some amazing late night discussions around those topics. Successful treatment strategies are patient-centered and address all three levels. The true source of radiant health is within each one of us. Through nearly 2 decades of medical practice, Dr. Tom has seen the importance of awakening healing through meditation, an often overlooked key to healing, and why I'm so excited to bring this topic to you all. His mission is to share proven strategies for awakening and optimizing your self-healing powers through his meditation prescription program. You can immediately apply these principles to your life and improve your health results. Dr. Tom, welcome aboard What the Health.
All right, Greg. Thanks for having me. This is so good. It's great to be back and chatting with you, and so honored to be here.
I love it. I love having you on. And this one, as serendipity has it, we've got good timing on this because you have a program coming up, which is the meditation prescription. And you're talking about the healing effects of meditation on really all chronic illness. And this is such a key piece for folks listening, viewing at home. This one is really profound and it's often overlooked. And I want you to start, because I know this was part of your health journey, your personal story. So, why meditation, and really how are you coming into this, bringing this forth to the world like this?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like my whole life I've been drawn towards natural healing and energetics and just being kind of more one with the planet, connected. I sort of ended up getting my Lyme and babesiosis outside teaching children, outdoor education things, because I was like, how do we get people really to love the planet and to live with the planet as much as we can as humans, And I was talking to a bunch of adults and they just wanted to talk and not act. And when I hung out with the kids, they were like, yeah, let's go. Let's check out the stream. Let's do maple sugaring. Let's see how we can work together. And it just was always so invigorating to me. And I found sort of like my church was always being outside, as you know, like skiing and hiking and mountain biking. But then, I ended up having Lyme disease and babesia when I was teaching the kids. And the doctor said, hey, look, I know exactly what you've got. This rash you have, this brain fog and fatigue and this horrible pain. It's just classic Lyme disease. Take this doxycycline for 10 days and you'll be completely good to go. And, so 2 weeks later, I kind of felt better. And then over the next 6 to 8 years, I kind of had every sort of mental health diagnosis, depression, bipolar depression. And then it's they're like, we don't know what's wrong with you. And we're like, oh, it's chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And eventually I just threw my hands up and I said, I have no idea what to do, but I know that I have a life to live. I remember the day I was standing in my house in Maine and I just was like, I've got shit to do. And I saw Jill and I, you know, my wife, having a family, playing outside, doing all the things I love, and it was going away. And I just remember, like, that's not going to be my future, right? I just left that thought behind and I focused on it. And then someone handed me a DVD of yoga, and it was really hard, but ultimately through, you know, months and months and months, I got to the point where my scattered brain and my body were able to finally sit down. And what the yoga taught me was what to eat, but also how to be calm in my body and actually have a true experience of myself. And as soon as I got in touch with that, my health just dramatically shifted. I mean, almost overnight. And it was that meditative state of being in tune. So that's kind of what got it started.
Sure. So that, you know, meditation is a buzz term, but also kind of loaded in that, you know, when I talk to folks, they're like, oh, like that's, you know, like, are you going to turn me into a Swami living in India? And so there are different connotations as to, you know, what is meditation? Like, is there a way, can you do it wrong? Right. Is there a right way? Like, or, you know, along those lines, I'm wondering just for the basic beginner, because, you know, we've got all kinds of apps now and, you know, everybody's talking about mindfulness. So, you know, why meditation in general, like you're saying, like you found with yourself in your own health journey, like getting into your body and calming yourself down into that, really, that started making a change for you. So maybe speak into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple pieces there, Greg, and I think one of them is just how do we define meditation, right? Versus mindfulness versus other. And, you know, admittedly for me, meditation is a thing that I try to do every moment of my day. So to me, it's more of a lifestyle. When we talk about Meditation RX and we talk about, you know, bringing people into a place where they can experience a meditative state, that's more of an isolated practice that'll eventually blossom, right? And so to me, when I look at the definition, you know, meditation is like to focus on. And one of the ones I really like is to become familiar with. And I think that that's more tangible, right? So initially, I became familiar with how bad my body felt. So I was actually meditating upon my illness. And so what did I do? I created more illness. So the way that I work with meditation is also combines sort of a bit of a mindset piece too, because you have to decide what you're meditating upon. And so am I meditating upon my illness, or what I learned was how do I meditate on the little bit of health that I know I have? Because when I focus on it and I meditate upon it, I bring more of it to life. And so that was the key. And as an osteopath, we talked about, you know, the body has a self-healing mechanism. And all these doctors that I trained with were like, find the health. Don't focus on disease. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Because I'm like, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
And that's all I could, but what I learned was, even if like I feel like I'm about to die, about 98% of my body's working great. So if I could just for 5, 10 minutes, even 30 minutes, ultimately focus on that, it would just supercharge it. And that's where you get all these amazing changes, because you give yourself a deep breath and you allow that health within you to blossom.
Interesting. So that's such a big component, because that's, you know, the components in chronic illness. Oftentimes we'll see folks, like it's been 10, 15, sometimes 20 years, and they've got all of the best specialists, and they're so focused on the disease process and the different symptoms that go with the different bugs or the co-infections, or, you know, what about this? Or, you know, now I have a new symptom. So you've got, you know, why do you think people stay sick? So there potentially some hidden blocks for people that keep them stuck in a chronic illness state. Now, it's not just all in their minds, and they're not making that happen to them. But at the same time, there's some nuances here that I want you to unpack.
Well, you know, I think part of it is we all know about the placebo effect, right? And we're like, you could call it a positive placebo and a negative placebo, or you can call it a nocebo. But the bottom line is, if we know that about a third of all medical outcomes are going to be related to what you think about it. And this is so powerful that when they study cholesterol-lowering medications like Lipitor and things like Zoloft and Paxil, all these antidepressants, they actually have to give people a sugar pill to weed out how much of the power of the brain is actually leading to the result. And, you find Lipitor works about 42% of the time, but 33% of that 42% is actually this.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you don't need the medicine, you don't need the lifestyle, you don't need the supplements, that you don't need a surgery. But what I'm saying is, why not harness all aspects of this body, mind, spirit unity to supercharge your results? Because I also know there's 3 ways this works, right? One is I have a positive belief about my outcome, so I'm going to more likely than not have a positive outcome. I have a negative belief about it, so I'm going to actually, third of my result is going to be worse because of how I think about it. And then the other part is I just leave it up to chance. So now you're just rolling the dice and you're going to get whatever you get. So I just choose to design my future and to design my health. And at the time, I was kind of like what they call unconscious competent, right? Like I didn't know what I was doing. My back was against the wall and I could either focus on what I didn't want, or I could say that thing, I'm going to get it no matter what.
Yeah.
And I was in my 20s and I was like, I'm not giving up yet. And thankfully, what I've learned in my career, though, with seeing so many people have been suffering so much and for so long, is I happen to be one of those lucky folks who happen to have enough resilience left at the time when I got my back against the wall. So many of my patients are so exhausted, right? And I'm sure the people you see, they've been doing this for so long. They're like,
Yeah.
And this is the part that we bring in the Meditation RX is like, look, this isn't about, hey, you feel good and you want to de-stress, or, you throw in the app for 5 minutes. Myself and my partner Sinclair, who have been working on this program, we were both in the same boat. And we come at it from when our backs were against the wall, when we had the least amount of energy, plus doing this professionally. What have we learned from all our patients? How do we get you to be able to have a positive response quickly so that you can start to develop that resilience that you once had,
Yeah, that is, what do you think made the difference? I mean, as that unconscious confident, some people have it and some people don't. So I'm just curious on, what you've seen with helping folks in very chronic states of illness, with Lyme. I mean, some of these folks have had it, 15, 20 years, and they're really depleted by the time they get to you.
Right.
How do you instill, maybe I call it fire, but how do you instill some energy or share, like, where do you start with people in that state where they're just like empty tank? They're coming like basically crawling in, not the 20 something Dr. Tom or Tom at that point saying, I'm not giving up, I'm going after that. But like, have been at it with their kids or themselves. Where do you start there?
Well, one of the first questions I ask people, Greg, is like, what is the first thing you're going to do when you see it? Like, so I ask them what their symptoms are, right? What's your number one symptom that's holding you back? Well, as soon as that's gone, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, so it's because most people come to me and they ask for how are you going to help me get better?
Right.
I'm like, that's my job. Like I've been doing this, I've been specializing this only for 12 years and I've been studying it for like another 5 years beyond that. So, and I've been in medicine since 95. So I've been doing this gig for a bit.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm like, trust our system to help you there. Like when someone comes to see you, I want them to trust you so that they can take that will unload them a bit. But then I go, okay, well, what do you want? Right. Yeah. And they're all, because everybody can kind of almost tell me what they want.
Sure.
But then the important part, and this goes back to your question about why people get so sapped and get stuck in this, is why do you want it? Right? So like a lot of people are like, hey, I want to get up off, I want to be able to, my knees hurt, my back hurts, I don't have good mobility. I want to be able to learn how to get up and down off the ground again. I want to be fluid so I can sit in a chair, stand up and get on the floor. I'm like, wow, that is the least exciting thing I've ever heard in my entire life, right? So I go, well, why do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? My first grandchild was just born like 6 months ago, and my daughter and my son-in-law are planning to have another one. And I've been waiting my whole life to be a grandparent, and I want to be able to play on the floor with them. Now, totally different emotional experience. Now, that's the experience I had by accident. I was like, whatever that is, Jill and I are doing this together.
Right.
And so my hair is standing up on my arms right now. Like, I'm so in, you have to find the thing that lights you up emotionally. And so if we look at it from the other perspective, the reason so many people get so depleted and sucked down into this chronic illness train is because they initially put all their energy into it and we weren't there for them as a system. Right. And so later on, the only thing they're really getting emotionally attached to is the emotion of how shitty they feel every day. And so unfortunately, what we need to do is interrupt that pattern and then give you a moment in your day, an oasis, where you give yourself permission to just choose a different story. And then we put you in a physiological state where you can put that deep into your body, back into your heart, and then you get that oasis 5 minutes twice a day. Because for me, like I said in the beginning, I try to walk, and granted, we all have good days and bad days, but I try to walk through my day going, this is my practice. You know, I'm walking into my future. It's really easy to say once you've been symptom-free for a decade, right? When you're still in the midst of it, you need to have, you get these little tools. And meditation, we can do practices that will help us calm your nervous system. So like if you can't go to sleep, we can help you fall asleep more easily. Meditate on a regular basis as short as daily for 4 weeks. 100% of people in these studies will go to sleep easier.
100%.
100%. And in one of the studies that we looked at, 91% of people decreased their use of sleep meds.
Wow. That's significant. 91%. Like there are no drugs on the planet that do that, right?
The sleep drugs don't even work that much. I mean, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah. And so it's fun to be able to look at that. And they actually found like if you regularly meditate, you can go and you have cardiovascular disease, you'll have 87% less hospitalizations.
Wow.
Like what kind of number is that?
Yeah, the number one killer in the United States, cardiovascular disease, 87%. So like what kind of meditation? Like are they like oming in specific positions for hours a day or what?
Well, usually what you have to do is stand on your right little toe and kind of balance. No.
Right.
It's funny because a lot of people, I have some friends who wanted to share the work we've been doing because they've sat through our meditations. And recently a group of us got together because a handful of our friends in this, health group had gotten COVID. And one of the ladies was like, I've been short of breath and I have like air hunger and severe nausea for the past week and a half. Yeah. Almost went to the hospital, was able to stay at home, but these are all physicians, right? And so she's getting her husband's a physician. Best care you can possibly get, is in touch with all the rest of us who kind of know what we're doing. And she's just like, I'm barely hanging on. And she went to the meditation and we did one, we talk about it for a few minutes, tell you what we're doing. And we did like a 35, 40-minute thing with music in the background. And we just kind of walked them through the process like we've just been talking. How do you release, just for the next 30 minutes, release your need to be attached to that? And we talk about how to feel healthier. And it's just really simple. You get relaxed and, and next thing you know, she's like, hey, at the end of the meditation, she's like, my nausea is gone and my breathing is like 60, 70% better. And it stayed that way. And another friend of ours, a couple weeks later, went to one of the groups that we did because, he'd been having a hard time sleeping after getting the, everyone's favorite current virus. And he was just in so much physical pain. And afterwards, his wife sent me a picture of him knocked out cold on the bed. He's got his eye mask on. He's propped up. And he was there for like 4.5 hours after we were done. And he said, I just felt this wave of relaxation, but it was different than kind of like other things I've done because all of this physical pain just subsided for the moment. And I was able to get in this deep restorative sleep. And after I woke up, I felt really supercharged, and he was able to start healing much more quickly. And I think because we do work with the energy centers or the chakras. You know, some of our meditations, we use binaural beats where you put a slightly different frequency in each ear, and that brings your brain to a different brainwave state, so we can help control it. And we let everybody know exactly what they're in for with different meditations, because there's specific goals. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is, we want to change your physiological state, and we want to help you sort of impress on your subconscious nervous system and on your heart your true healing goals. And because, like, so much of meditation for me, and this is why it's so hard for us to get into, Greg, when we are chronically sick, is we're fight or flight. We're fight or flight. We're always like gonna fight or we're gonna run away. Yeah. Or worse yet, we get into a frozen state. None of those states are associated with joy and relaxation, right? I mean,
right.
My patients are not usually happy-go-lucky, at least the really sick ones. Right. So we get you into a state, even if it's initially temporarily, where your nervous system is open to change and it feels safe. Yeah. And so when I say become familiar with, I want you to become more familiar with the state that you used to know that you haven't known in a decade. Yeah. I want you to become familiar with healing. I want you to become familiar with safety, because safety is actually the reason that in the beginning I couldn't get in the meditation. I would sit down, I'd start to feel something, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And then I say, oh, well, I'm too ADHD. My mind goes too much. Right. Meditation's not for me. It's not about your mind going or not going. It's about your heart. Yeah. And allowing your heart to feel safe so it can open. Like that picture behind you is just, I feel so energized by looking at it. I've been watching it the whole time, and I'm like, I feel it, right? Yeah. That's what we want our patients to do. And like, if you have a beautiful picture of someone you love, just look at that, you know?
Yeah, that is, so that's so key. That is different around, you really address the oneness and getting people into their hearts, because the monkey mind chatter is always going to be there. And it's like, if you feed it, you're going to get more of it. Just like if you're feeding your attention into a diseased state, well, energy flows into the disease state rather than going towards health. So what are those kind of the three keys to entering into a healing state that you talk about? Or do you want to address those specifically? Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, and we tend to kind of like, a quick side note, because I think it's important to understand, there's a guy by the name of Andy Newberg, right? And he's a neuroradiologist. So he's a radiologist who specializes in your brain, and he's Jewish, and he's very into the Jewish theology, but then he also branches out into other sort of spiritual and religious beliefs, and he looks into them because he found there's a lot of commonality. And so one particular study that I think frames our conversation really well was, he took Franciscan nuns, right, and who were reported to be very advanced in their prayer and their connection with God. And he also took Buddhist meditators, and they were reported to be enlightened, right? And he didn't care what it meant. He just said they were known to be at the height of their spiritual or religious practice. And he sat them down in a room, and he put a little fish wire on their pinky as to not disturb them. He said, when you get to the height of your experience, go like this, and we're going to go down and do a SPECT scan. We're going to look at the areas of their brain that are most active and least active. And so he did, and after they got into their states, he noticed that association cortex, which is in sort of the parietal lobe, and you don't have to know it, just what it sounds like, association cortex, right? You're associated with the world, turned off in both of them. And then in prefrontal cortex, especially on the right side, and just think about right brain versus left brain, very creative and open to experience. And prefrontal has a lot to do with our social experience as well. So that turned on. And he goes, wow, this is really interesting, because both the Buddhist meditators and the Franciscan nuns had the exact same, more or less, biochemical, physiologic brainwave activity experience. Huh. And he goes, so he said to the nuns, he said, what were you experiencing? And they said, God was directly speaking to me. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Sounds like some of the stories my mom told me about her prayers, right? It's like, but then he goes to the Buddhist meditators, what was your experience? They're like, I was one with all.
I was connected with the universe. I was the one. So what we have here is biochemically and structurally in the brain, essentially the identical experience. But our experience is sort of, colored by the lens that we look through. So if our lens is Christianity or Catholicism, our experience will sort of meld itself to that. And if we're Buddhist, our experience, even though it's the same as the other person, will be a little different. Same if we're Muslim or we're Jewish or whatever, atheist. Now think about our chronic illness people, right? And go back to our conversation. It's like I put on the lens of, oh my God, the only thing I can think of with my back against the wall is my life is going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. I was so scared. Thank God somebody put that download in my head. But a lot of our people are like, I am in so much pain today. I can't move. I can't. My Lyme disease, my multiple sclerosis, my whatever. And it doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's just a lens they put on in the morning. Mm-hmm. And most of us, every day we wake up, we put our feet on the floor before we decide what lens we're going to put on today. And so we just put on the same lens as yesterday and the day before. So number one key for us is to really show up for yourself and make the decision that you're going to take the information we've been talking about and try to apply it. Really, and then the other part is change the lens. Let go of your old story, flick them to the corner. Hopefully somebody will walk on those lenses and step on them so you don't have to put them on again.
Right.
And then try on a new pair of lenses. So basically try a new story, right? Because the question I ask everybody, Greg, is they're like telling me their story. And I go, well, how's that working for you?
Right.
I know my story wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a lot of stories in my life I tell myself that don't work for me. And I just do my best to catch them as soon as I can, change my glasses.
Yeah.
So the big three keys are, and the hardest one I think isn't really letting go of your old story or picking a new story, because most people know their old story sucks. Even if their old story is pretty good, they know that they could write a script that's even better. But it's number one, which is show the hell up for yourself. And to show up for yourself means that you have to believe that you innately, internally, have more power than anyone outside of you to determine your destiny. And that's a shitload of responsibility. And that's totally awesome.
That is total responsibility right there. And, I think when you put that on, it's like, oh my gosh, like nobody... I think we have not been taught on how powerful we are as beings. And I love that that's part of the osteopathic upbringing of Dr. Tom, and that's in the naturopathic upbringing of Dr. Greg, of the body knows how to heal itself. We just have to remove the obstacles, right? And it's the innate ability, it's the innate intelligence of us as humans to be able to heal. And so this is one of those techniques that kind of gets brushed aside of like, oh, well, it's too easy. It's like, no. What you just said is a boatload of responsibility of like, no, you're not just a victim to it. It's not just that bug was more powerful than your innate intelligence. It just is, yes, you're sick. Those are real symptoms. And who's showing up for you today? I think, what is the stat? It's like over 65% of our thoughts are the same thoughts that we had yesterday. It's like, where is the creativity, or how do you expect to live a different life if you just keep thinking the same things,
100%. It's interesting because I always think of, Marianne Williamson has that great quote about our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And it's our light, not our darkness, that scares us the most. Yeah. And to me, you are 100% right, Greg. It is not about, we are not blaming you for getting sick. That tick that bit me, it wasn't my fault. Right. The question is, it's not about what you did in the past. It's not what you're doing, right now. It's about what is that next step you're taking. And, we're alive. Things happen. But the thing is, like, I think of it this way. Like, if I decide that I will never, like in Lyme disease, one of the things everybody says is, oh, you can't cure it, you can only go in remission. I'm like, well, I don't know, I've been in remission for 10 plus years. So I call that cure because I haven't had a symptom, right?
Yeah.
And I think the narrative is wrong. You can be cured from whatever you think you can be cured of. Now, but what we say is so many people are like, oh, I'm just going to stay sick with it forever. I'm like, well, you know what? That's pretty much a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
But if you go, hey, I have the possibility of healing. I can see myself as a healed person. You have at least a half a chance of getting there. And when it's like 100% my life sucks or half a chance of it being amazing again, I know which one I'll take all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that component, I mean, you can see how people get stuck in it. Like they've been promised maybe by 20 different providers or healers of, oh, we can cure that, or that can go away. And then, the mind starts to get chirpy of like, well, I'm not going to believe that anymore. However, this isn't a promise. This is you just showing up for yourself and actually tapping into the wisdom that's already in there and getting quiet enough to hear it, I think is one of the key pieces of the puzzle here. And you really bringing it into the heart. I love that. I definitely, I say we treat heart-centered beings moving through time and space. So it really is bringing people back to their hearts is like now more than ever, we need that. And so we've been talking about the meditation component, but specifically, why is meditation such an important tool in healing? Like, how does that play out? So we've got people coming into their hearts and quieting the mind, but really getting into their hearts and into their bodies. So
well, I think into your body is so important because I think so much about when people think about, I come in and say, hey, Dr. Tom, I have this experience, right? And like my heart's racing. I kind of breathe a little more shallowly. I feel like the light bothers me. I looked in the mirror, my pupils are dilating. I might be a little sweaty. And I'm like, oh, so what's going on? They're like, oh, I'm anxious. And I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting because that's how I would describe dropping into a really cool ski run. Right? So, or take it a different place, public speaking.
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, I feel that way too, but I don't call it anxiety. I call it excitement. So what I'm saying is there's a physiological response and then you end up labeling it. And part of what we do is a lot of times when we're sick, we dissociate from our bodies because we feel that that's the safest we can be in the moment, right? And so a lot of people, that becomes a neurologic pattern, almost like pain. The more pain you have, ultimately, you don't even need the original cause. You'll just be in a chronic pain cycle, and we need to break that. In order for you to not have pain. It's not that somebody's still kicking you in the shin. It's that your body thinks somebody is, And so with chronic illness, people have been doing the thing that I think about the body is it is in 100% compensation. Your health is the best it can possibly be in the moment, every single moment. And so many of us think our body has betrayed us. Our body hasn't betrayed us. It's doing the very best it can right now. So healing is perfect in the moment. However, it may not be complete, right? And so what I'm trying to do is help people understand that when you come back into your body, a lot of what we're doing is we're running away from releasing things. So as an example, like when I was sick, I was so tired. And when I tried to sit, I would start to almost vibrate. And I was like, oh no, that's my illness. That's my mind pattern that's all messed up from Lyme. Well, when I learned to be able to meditate, and again, you could do a walking meditation, you could do a sleeping meditation. We teach you all these different ways. But it allows you to take the energy that's stuck in one area and reclaim it for healing throughout. So the energy that's stuck in an area might be walling something off, might be protecting you. And our goal is to allow your body to reassimilate it at a healthy way so that you can reclaim the energy. Because the mental energy and the physical energy we put into staying sick is the energy that all my people are asking for. I'm like, it's in you. Just stop holding it in one place. Let it flourish. So if you can become aware of your emotions and how you're afraid to be in the body or you're totally stuck in the body, and you can allow this to sort of blossom into a more natural expression of your innate energy, all of a sudden you have more energy, right? And when we talk about, I think it's important too, when we talk about sleep, something along the lines of 80 to 90% of our brain detoxification happens during deep sleep.
Right.
Right. And I know a lot of your neurologic patients and people with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, so many people don't want dementia. We want to optimize that. Well, it's really hard. And my people all want to get over brain fog, right? So if we want to do that, one of the things is not just from the spiritual or the esoteric perspective, but from a biochemical perspective, when we allow ourselves to calm down before bed and we get ourselves out of that fight or flight or freeze more into a rest, rejuvenate state, you can actually sleep. And if you get deeper sleep, then your physiology will work better. And so if you're on supplements for brain detoxification, they're not going to work as well if you're not sleeping as well. So they work hand in hand. And so I find that a lot of the power of meditation when you're chronically ill is not only releasing the energy, but to really just optimize the performance of your physiological functions that you don't have direct control over, right? But you can calm the nervous system, the adrenals, and you can go on a little vacation like every night.
Let's give them, I think there's a good part of the discussion around a little demo around that. And then I definitely, on the second part of the show, we're going to talk about what you've got. You've got your meditation prescription, which is actually coming up here in the next couple days here, the 21st and 23rd of October. And I've got that link in the show notes for sure. But I want to talk specifically about your program. But let's give a demo. Like, let's feel like, what are you talking about here?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things, this is sort of what got me started in the very beginning, and this is sort of a diving off platform place, but is to just, find yourself seated comfortably or even lying down, right? And so if the people who are listening or watching right now can just kind of get comfy in their chair, and then just, allow your eyes to gently close, and then just take a breath, just become aware of your inhalation and the exhalation. And as you do that, notice whatever it is, whether it's the air going in and out of your nose, your chest rising and falling, and just become aware of your breath. And as you're more and more aware of the breath, if there's anything that comes up in any aspect of your body, like for me, I've got a bit of a tight right hip after a workout, just sort of become aware of it and then go back to your breathing. And so you're allowed to have your thoughts come in and out and just go right back to the breath. In and out. And this is a simple exercise you can do for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And then if you enjoy it, which I certainly do, I would invite everyone to start really breathing just directly into the center of their chest. And just kind of as if you're breathing directly into your heart, and allow that breath to come in and out. And if it helps, you can do exactly what Dr. Greg is doing with his hand over his chest. And really feel like your breath is just filling your heart. And then I'd invite you to bring to mind someone or something that you just love so, so very much. Whether that's a partner, a child, or even a nice walk with your dog. Whatever it is, it just feels so good. Just breathe that deeper and deeper into your heart with every breath. And I'd invite you to feel intense gratitude for this amazing person or event in your life. And just know that with every breath in and out, that gratitude grows. Breathing in and exhale, just release any tension. And then I would invite you to, with this inhalation, feel some love and gratitude for yourself, for whatever state your body is currently in. It's doing its absolute very best for you. And you can inhale love and gratitude. And as you exhale, just release any stress or tension. If you have anything that's just nagging you a little bit, take that big breath in and just release. And then just for another moment, think about that one big dream, that goal, whether it's a health goal, a relationship goal. See yourself achieving it. See it as something that's already happened. Just feel the gratitude as you breathe into your heart. And exhale, man, that energy grows. And with each inhalation and exhalation, your self-love grows and grows. And you see yourself as worthy and deserving of all your dreams and desires. Health, wealth, and abundance are yours. Just take a few more breaths and let that grow. That worthiness and that self-love. Then take one or two big breaths in and out, filling yourself with gratitude for everything you have and for all that life has given you. And then when you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes.
Awesome. That is spectacular. So that right there in the middle of our day, we gotta, or whenever you're listening, you gotta state shift. Thank you, Dr. Tom. That's an awesome prelude to what's coming up.
I love how you didn't tell me we were going to do that. That was the best.
That I know. I just snuck it on him. But we got the meditation prescription, the meditation RX, and this is a program that you and Sinclair developed, and it's reverse chronic conditions through meditation. And you've got some live free training coming up.
Yep.
And how is your approach different than some of the other meditation programs out there?
Yeah, I think we have all tried a whole bunch of different ones, and what I find is, having been through it myself and worked with so many people over the last decade plus of chronic illness, and the same for Sinclair, we're really tailoring it to the needs of people who might be forgetful, might be in a lot of pain, might not be able to get into the position we want, or maybe it's just they don't want specific, like, oh, I just want to de-stress. I mean, they like want real results now.
Yeah.
And they want to unlock. And so kind of what I was, in the back of my head as we were just doing the brief meditation, I realized like sometimes when you want to give everybody a lot, right? And so in the program, what we do is we build a little more slowly and we allow people to experience it. And, also we are like, what are the common things people have issues with who have chronic illness? So sleep is a big one. And so we have specific sleep tracks for people who are suffering with chronic infections and other chronic stuff, not just like the stressed out person. It works for that too, but there's a lot of programs that do that. So we just took like all of our professional work. I've been beta testing this with patients for over 10 years, right? So I know what works in Lyme and what doesn't, right? And that's really, I think, the key. And I could tell you all the different pieces, but the bottom line is it's for people with chronic illness, designed for people who treat chronic illness and they themselves have recovered from chronic illness. And I think the last part's really important is so many people I know are like, oh, I'm treating Lyme, but I also got Lyme and I can't get better. I'm like, no, I'm better.
Yeah, right.
And I've been better for a decade. Yeah. And I can show you the tests. I can show you the doctor's notes that prove how sick I was. And I can also... You can come skiing with me like you do.
Yeah.
And you can see what you can do when you get over it. And so I know what's on the line for people. Yeah. And we really want to make it accessible to folks. And so we build it in such a way that I find that a lot of our people are sensitive. And a lot of our people, if you make shifts too quickly, they're going to fall apart. So our program is designed, like a lot of people do, like say energy centers all at once.
Right.
I like doing that now. I tried doing that 15 years ago, almost killed myself.
Yeah, right.
So it's really kind of staged in a way that's designed for people who are experiencing chronic illness and chronic infection so that they can recover and gain momentum in the direction of their goals and their dreams.
I love that. I mean, that is what it's all about in that contribution to others. And I love that this is like the foundational component for where you're going with your life's work, really is around, really bringing people home into their hearts, into their bodies, not, before the meditation, you were talking about, kind of the tendency for safety is to leave the body of like, I'm going to escape the thing that's causing me symptoms. And then like you mentioned, like the symptoms of anxiety, some people have a negative connotation too, and public speakers and kind of radical skiers are actually searching for that experience and those sensations. And so the physiology of the body, it's the same physiologic response with a different story attached to it,
Correct.
Which then creates momentum in one way or the other into dis-ease or into, I call it Wellville, but we could call it Thrive, or, into heart joy.
Right.
And so that is really profound work, Doctor.
Thank you.
I'm super psyched for you guys releasing this program and me just helping you educate folks around this technique and tool that's accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and part of our retreats, so when we're not supposed to tell people this, but we do opening retreats even for our short programs, which are not supposed to be part of it, but we do it in a way because we want to be able to allow you to get to that place, to create that dream and put it in there. And like you were just saying, Greg, you just summarized it so well so that you have the option of knowing you can move in that direction that's safe and come back to Wellville. So love it, man.
Well, what other, in the kind of the last bit of our show, anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners, maybe in particular around brain health or longevity? This is the secret of the Taoist masters and in Chinese medicine. I think oftentimes in our modern age, we want to know like, well, how do we pump up the mitochondria and raise NAD? And I want to live forever. And what is often forgotten in those discussions is why, it's like, why, and what are you doing with your life around, like joy? I think now more than ever, it's like, I've been asking my patients, like, what do you do for joy? And they just kind of blink at me like, what are you talking about? Like joy.
What is that? Yeah, I think there's so much research out there, Greg, because like when you're in a state of joy, your sleep is better. And I'm a broken record about sleep. It's got to be, I mean, literally people spend more money on their cars if they spend an hour to an hour and a half in a day than they do their beds and their sleep. And it has so much to do with how you show up every day, because you're going to be feeling better or worse, right? You're going to have better cognitive function, better energy. But we know that sleep is critical for detoxification and prevention of the buildup of the amyloid beta that leads to things like Alzheimer's. But I think what you're saying with the joy is such an important piece too. When you have joy, you slow down the aging process, right? The mitochondria, we're like taxing the crap out of them with this toxic cortisol levels through the ceiling and stress. And there's good and bad stress, but it goes back to what you were just saying about physiologically, right? We're labeling our experience differently. We talked about how in your brain, you can have a biochemical reaction that you label differently than somebody else. It's the same. And it changes your physiology. So I think the biggest thing for me is you have the choice to have joy. I'm not saying there's not some pain in your life. I'm not saying that any of this was brought on you by you. I'm just saying that you have control over the future. And you can go through your day and make it 5% better than it would have been. And that adds up because, from a longevity perspective, your body doesn't want to live suffering like over, it's like, right. I think about blue zones, right? All these people are happy. They do the things they love even when they're crippled, right? You see people like, but they're still doing, because they're old from their arthritis and all, and they're just leading with their heart. Yeah. And that's the joy that you need to do. And that'll keep longevity and brain health and all the others.
Love it. I love it. So so are you doing this program? So right now you've got a launch coming out for the meditation prescription.
Yep.
This podcast will be in perpetuity out there. So we'll have people, come back, I'm guessing, kind of maiden voyage and launch here, time tested in the clinic, now bringing it to our homes and living rooms, etc.
Right.
You'll release it through time, but I want to encourage people to get in on this beginning phase. We experienced the state shift within 10 minutes today of the meditation that I sprung on you. So that was off the cuff, ladies and gentlemen, from Dr. Tom. So imagine in the program what they're putting forth, where they actually took their time and they're meticulous on the program of where they're taking people. So I'm excited to see it. You have some free offerings coming up this week for those with early action takers. So, and I saw the times are very agreeable. I mean, we're around the globe at this point, but if we just talk about it in Pacific Coast time, I think you had a 5 o'clock there each day. Are they the same times each day?
Yeah, so Wednesday is 5 Pacific of this week. Thursday is 6 Pacific, and then we're doing 10 a.m. Pacific on Saturday for some of the people in Europe and stuff.
Love that. Yes.
And then we have an ongoing membership program afterwards. Really, like, we want to have people have an immersive event so they can start to really change their momentum quickly. And then we have ongoing community support for people, because together we need a community of healing and a community of joy.
Thank you, Dr. Tom. And don't we ever, I mean, that component, I'm going to put a plug in for the community healing effect that you guys are setting up there. You may be wondering, in your community and in your family, there's a lot of division and a lot of separation happening. And, if you're looking for folks that are wanting to show up for themselves, and that means show up for you because they're showing up for themselves and living in their heart, check out this offering from Dr. Tom. And we've got the links in the show notes. I really am super grateful that you came on. That was an awesome meditation in my day, and I love sharing that with the viewers and listeners of What the Health. Any last parting messages for our listeners?
I would just say that, no matter where you're at in your life, turn inwards, create a community around you, live from your heart, live your joy, and just decide the thing that what's most important to you, and just, allow that to energize you. And, through Meditation RX, you can awaken healing, but all this stuff is already innately in you. The universe put this amazing healing potential within you, and just unleash that shit, man. Just let it go. Lead with your heart. And, looking forward to seeing everybody in the community. And I'm just so honored to be here. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Everybody, this is What the Health. You can think of 2 people that could use this message. Please share the show with them. And of course, get out there and give us those 5-star reviews. It does make a difference. And it's how we get the message out and create the change that we want to see on the planet. So thanks for tuning in. We are here Tuesdays from 2 to 3 Pacific time on the Contact Talk Radio. See you next week, everybody.